Alright. Day 38. You're coming right along. And today, some basic maintenance stuff. Nothing too serious. I say that, but, you know. Everything here we do is serious. So, let's take a look at a few things we have here. I have a satellite on the way for this contract. Temperature surveys we can do later. Observational surveys we can do with landers on the moon. Science data from Minmus, that'll be a little while. Explorer Minmus will be another little while. More observational surveys with moon. Cover component P09S35. I want to know what this is and where it is. Mass 0.8 tons. Component. That'll be interesting. So I'll have to bring something back without destroying it. This is actually where a space shuttle could come in handy. I need to also put a new station around Mun, and by that I'm going to just put up one module to dock onto our station. Antenna docking port can generate power. Facilities supporting these 5 Kerbals, and pilot needs to be on the station. That's easy. That one is easy, and it is good funds. So we're going to work on that probably at some point today. We take a temperature scan near our bottomed out lander, which thankfully we can probably do right away. Let's just see if we can't do that. As if this is close enough, might as well just go ahead and take the temperature scan and send it back. Got us an instant contract win here. This derpy abandoned lander. Oh, I have no control. There's no electric charge. Is it in the area that I need to take the scan, though? Looks like it. So we might come back to this one later. Once the sun comes around, it might go ahead and recharge this. This derpy lander. Let's switch over to Valentina Kerman Station, because this is going to be the first part of our crew support we need to do today. We do need to get our current crew off of Valentina Kerman Station. We're going to get them back to Kerbin. We're going to get them to the Jebediah Kerman Station, and we're going to attempt to do that, hopefully so they level up. I don't know how this whole level up thing works, but you notice their log is only showing like orbits around Kerbin rather. Yeah. See, I think once they land, they'll get that log increase, and I think they'll get more experience. So we're going to start transferring them over. We already have Eiffel. One thing I do need to do, review stored data. We do want to unpack. There we go. We do want to unpack all this data and throw it in the lab, so let's send our scientist out to do that. There we go, we can store all those experiments. Because I did actually learn we will get more science from researching the stuff in orbit of Moon if we actually did take the science there. It's based on wherever you took the science that the lab will give you a bonus. Station. There we go. 23 experiments will be ready for us to research once we send our next crew back. I am going to let the next crew take care of that. Start prepping the transfer vehicle. Transfer our pilot into the cabin. Perfect. Now our scientist and engineer are in the back, and our pilots are up front. That's the way it should be. Now, fuel. I don't think we really need a ton of fuel, to be quite honest, for this return journey. So I'm going to try and pump some of this out. I don't know why I just did that one. That was weird. So only this main tank area of the transfer vehicle am I going to bother to fuel. And the reason I'm pumping all the fuel there is I want to keep the weight higher where the more efficient engine is, so I can actually scale down the thrust on the less efficient engines. Okay, so this main fuel tank area is up to full. Let's start pumping fuel into the station itself. Okay, hopefully that should be enough. We could probably pump out some monoprop as well, just to make sure we're keeping the weight down as much as possible as well. less monoprop we carry around, the less weight we need to worry about. As more fuel efficient we'll be on our return journey. We will need some monoprop just to do our eventual docking with Jebediah Kerman Station, but we won't need this much. This is an excessive amount. I didn't go quite crazy with those originally. Alright, so I think the main station section is now fully fueled for monoprop. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to start to transfer some of it into the RCS harness for the lander as well. So again, a twofold thing. We want the return vessel to be lighter as we send it back so we consume less fuel, make it more efficient for our return. And also we want to take advantage of all the fuel that we have available to leave on station, since bringing fuel out here is inevitably expensive. Good. All right, that's all the monoprop we can store on the station as of now. So now it's a matter of balancing out our weight load on the actual transport. Since things are pretty unbalanced right now in terms of fuel for monoprop. So I'm going to go for throwing all of it into the forward tanks and see if I can get the forward tanks uniformly full with what we have. Yeah, looks like we'll have what we need to fill at least the forward tanks. Yep. Still gives us some extra. So I'm going to try and balance that out equally between the top and the bottom tanks. This way if one ends up just a little less than full, it's not a big deal, because we're already asymmetric. And we already have a pair of engines that we can throttle appropriately. I'm actually going to fill up the top one so that balance is in favor of the AJ-10 a little more than the Cheetah. And there you go. That looks pretty ideal. So we drained all the fuel out of the extra tank. Did keep enough here for the return. couple of those tanks empty as well. I think that'll do. I think that'll do us. So we're going to undock. Now have an abandoned station for the moment. Valentina Kerman Station, unoccupied until the next expedition arrives. Hopefully with some upgrades we can throw on station. And a spare lander. Or actually, this will be our spare because it has some little glitches with it, little issues that we're going to repair with the replacement for the one that's now stranded on the moon's surface. So we now need to words. Now need to plan our return burn. Return burn. Return burn. Return burn. With as little delta V as possible. Looks pretty good. It gives us a very low periaps by comparison. Ooh, that one does really well. Let's deorbit ourselves as much as possible in the process of this, getting us as low as possible to Kerbin. That looks pretty good. It's a modest burn. It's only a 5-second burn. We are going to play around with thrust limiting. Bring this down just a little ways. See if I can guesstimate how we're looking. Because one way or the other, the craft probably will try and rotate once we throttle up. It will probably try and pitch. Either pitch up or pitch down. That's pretty unavoidable right now with the way this is set up. I don't know that there's any way for me to check where the center of gravity is and what our center of thrust is while we're in flight. So we're just kind of winging it. Sometimes you just gotta wing it. So I am gonna just do like a quick throttle up here. So we're gonna pitch down pretty hard. I want that a little higher. Still going to pitch down a little bit. It's closer. That's where we want it. Alright. So that's good and all, but now we screwed up our maneuver. So now at least I know what we need to do. For our thrust limiting. Right there. That's a little higher up than the last one, but a little better. Yeah, we'll just stick with it. Like I said, at least now we know our engines will be well balanced for the return journey. Hopefully this doesn't turn into yet another rescue mission. Stranded in high orbit or something. We got a 5-second burn coming up in 9 minutes. Use this prograde marker to help stabilize us a little bit, just in case we get any more wobble. Because this is an entirely prograde maneuver, so it shouldn't be that bad to do that. So 2.5 seconds away from our maneuver, we'll start burning. Nice and balanced. Very good. So one escape in just a few hours there. Excellent. We're going to be doing some time warp, I think. How far is a satellite from Minmus? Oh, pardon me. 2 days. Yeah, so that's going to be a little longer. Just a little longer. All right. See what other stuff we want to work on right now. I can probably use a new launcher. Where are all the planets right now? Kind of meh. Adventurer 1. I don't think that's doing anything very useful right now. Sunset 1 still has like 51 days till its maneuver that we're going to do for a contract. Eve probe is still in a horrible position to do anything. So, oh well. Let's do it. Let's create a new heavy launcher. Or at least attempt to. I don't want to launch the updated station parts yet, because realistically, we want to wait for the crew to be there, the return crew to be there, since it does need a pilot on board to complete the contract. Let's see, let's make a fuel tank as a payload. Job done. Just a simple antenna. Nothing too fancy there. Got a very good comm network in and around Kerbin and Mun, so we don't need a very strong antenna. We just need a antenna. Could use some batteries. Right? Yeah. Yeah, that looks fine. Okay. Some simple batteries. Fine. Or, oh, idea time. One of these on. That guy on. One single trailing solar panel. Style points. It's actually a terrible idea because of how we're going to be able to launch this. So that's not what we're going to do. We're going to do this then. Pair of solar panels. Oh, poop. Alright, that should be good enough. Let's get rid of this and put one of these on. So we want the smallest version of this shroud. A good upper stage. So I'm going to say probably this. And that would probably be good. So we're going to want an AJ10 up at the top. How expensive is an AJ10? 1680? Yeah, I would want that over 2 cheetahs any day. Actually, 2 cheetahs are lighter. We're going to be recreating the centaur here. That's going to be weird. It's going to be weird. But we're going to do it anyway. Because somehow these 2 engines are still lighter weight than a single AJ10. And right now, weight is my primary concern with these stages. So there we go. very Centaur-like. Alright, so that's our vacuum stage. We do want a longer second stage. Okay, we're going to do engine plates again. Because much cheaper than a skipper and providing more thrust would be a pair of bobcats. So once again, we're going to be pairing up engines. This is a double cluster. Again, we're going to move them just a little closer. Good. Will give us a 4-engine second stage. 4-chamber, 2-engine upper stage. All right. It's looking good. We now need a large tank under this. And another large tank. Because we're going to do some crazy stuff here. Let's put 6 of these. Strap to that. Put some aerodynamics on it. Some struts probably just to make sure this hangs on tight. Should do. Some more down bottom. Go. Just some linkage pins. And then cheaper than a mainsail, we're going to put, and actually the same weight and with more thrust, slightly lower efficiency, but the extra thrust will make up for it since fuel is cheaper and we're already getting a cheaper engine. We're going to put some bare REI2s, which are based on the J2. Alright, and then we're going to move them so they are not getting aerodynamics effects against them. Tuck them in and make this look even more like a Proton. Unashamedly. Although that would actually get some aerodynamic effects that way. Be alright. Just gonna fuel line them though, just make sure the engines actually get the fuel that they're supposed to get. Very cool. Alright. Now, this is slightly overweight. Slightly overweight we could fix. Try this. Oh, man, just the tiniest bit overweight. Okay. I get rid of this too? Is that even gonna stand a chance? This may stand a chance. This is basically a proton rocket. I really should put an aerodynamic cone on top of this and just eject it. Oh, we still need monoprop. I got a few tons worth I can throw up here. Let's just put these on instead of really worrying about the aerodynamics. Let's see, what can we do with this thing? 20 tons worth of fuel. This might just end up being an equivalent to our K-15, to be honest. Our K-15 is actually quite impressive. Disable the staging of those, which means I didn't put any very important thing, separatrons. Didn't put any decouplers. Oh, I said separatrons, I meant decouplers. Okay. Okay, that's one. So we'll go that plus these will fire. Okay. These two engines, they need their own decoupler here. More coupler. This is an expensive rocket. This is an expensive way to get to a fuel tank to orbit here. But if we do it, this might just be the more effective way to get fuel up. It's at least worth trying for entertainment's value, right? Just for the fact that we could try and do it. Pure entertainment's sake. How close are we to being overweight? We are very close to being overweight. Let's launch this to the desert just in case something goes horribly wrong. Andy is back. Welcome back, Andy. We are testing out a Berserk rocket here. This is the most we can build right now with our current pad limit. And we're going to see if this can finally be a 20-ton to orbit launcher. Or if this is a horrible idea. Probably the latter. So we got 6 J2s in the bottom. That makes this roughly equivalent to a mainsail, but cheaper. Slightly less efficient, but slightly more thrust to make up for it. This does look oddly Proton-esque. I did choose 6 engines specifically for that reason, but it's also the exact weight of the mainsail, so kind of decision made itself for me. Get a lot of has a lower thrust to weight ratio compared to our other ones. I might just take it a little past the 10,000 meter mark before I start doing our curve rate turn. I might just do a more gradual curve rate turn like that. Some wobble. Wow, this might overachieve by quite a ways. Here I was extremely worried about this. Alright, 2 Bobcat engines for the next stage. There's our sustainer. Nice cheap replacement for the skipper as well. This is actually cheaper. More thrust. And I think actually slightly more efficient. Almost up to our apogee, so we want to flatten this out. Get us our initial orbital velocity. Initial drive, or initial horizontal velocity. Just a little down so we get as much velocity as possible in the horizontal direction. I like the way the engine's kind of twisted there. That's kind of cool. Alright. There goes that stage. We can now coast to apogee. Kill the engines, drop that stage off. And now, to keep our weight down, we used 2 cheetahs. That is still lighter than a single AJ-10. See how long this takes to get to orbit. This will be a insanely long burn, so we really need to start it almost immediately. There. Pair of cheetah engines doing good for us, looks like. Might just do the trick. That makes this, I think, roughly the same cost and roughly the same effectiveness as our K-15 anyway, though. And this is just be fun to switch back and forth every now and again. I think they're basically equal. This will have a little extra fuel in this fuel tank here. I really wish I had put some retro rockets on this thing. There we go. Pretty much a circular orbit. We can send this off to Jeb Kerman Station at least. Doesn't have really anything geared up to be able to do more than that. Although the inclination difference is going to be killer here. It's going to make things kind of a challenge. because we launched from the desert site. We launched in a different inclination naturally. Because we started at a different, is it latitude or longitude? I don't know. I don't know planetary stuff. I only know stuff that's off the planet. That is going to use up the rest of our fuel. Which is once again going to leave trash in space. Just because I tend to not plan these things very well. I'll just keep all this until, well, maybe not. I don't know. I'll figure something out. So what happens with test rockets? I don't really know what to expect from them. I could mathematically predict it, but laziness. Laziness. So we'll get maybe like 17 seconds away from the burn. Kind of hard to tell because we're going to switch engines over. Stage partway through this, leaving space debris. Not leaving space junk. Alright, it is a little bit out of position right now to try and get to the station. So right now, I'm going to just kind of leave this thing be. Auto aim at prograde. So its solar panels stand a chance of getting sunlight on its usual orbit. So it stays charged, and at some point we will use that as a fuel tank for the Jebediah Kerman station once it's in a convenient position. And that's that. Alright, so I did create space junk out of that, and that's an easy thing to fix for next time. But overall, not bad. If I'd launched that from the Space Center, I actually probably could have used a little more payload on there if the weight limit wasn't there, and still been fine. So that looks kind of like a keeper. Let's go back and save that rocket. Overall, I think this is a 20-ton payload. So this would be the K-20 in our current naming scheme. Rocket itself starts there, so almost a 20-ton payload. It would have been able to handle a 20-ton payload to orbit, based on that extra fuel we had for the inclination maneuver. So this would be a K-20. This is a G1. Low Kerbin orbit. Reboot. Now, question, right? With this on there, this became a almost 50k rocket, right? The question I now have is, if I launch this from a K-15, which I don't think I'm going to try and do right now, if I did that, how expensive would it be? It would be only about 40, so this is 10k more. So this one, the rocket itself is about 30. This one, the rocket itself is about 40. Which makes sense, actually. Cost to payload, 15 tons. You're paying about then 10,000 for every 5 tons, and then you're paying here 10,000 for every 5 tons. So now my question is, just out of curiosity, how much does our K5 cost? Is this consistent? Yep, pretty consistent. This weighs a little more, but about that point, so about 10k for every 5 tons to orbit across all of these. So it really doesn't matter which of these I use in terms of cost effectiveness, as long as I'm using the one that matches the payload weight. That's kind of cool. Didn't even catch on to that before. Now see, our K7 would be like a whole other thing, because it's kind of in between. It's not really 5, you know? Wow, is it cheap though? It's like the same price as this almost. Is it cheaper? It's cheaper. How is that cheaper? 21,785. 20,894. Yeah, this is it's cheaper somehow. With more fuel tank. The same engines. Larger boosters. The same antenna. What is expensive about this one? The wings? You might legitimately come back down to the wings. Wow. Okay. I don't think I'll be using the K5 very much anymore. But I think these 3 are our current lineup. I'm not saving that fuel tank. The fuel tank didn't really... I don't like the fuel tank very much, but just to test the craft. That's kind of neat, actually. Makes you feel a little better about constantly using the K-15. So I think I'm going to be in a position where I'm going to be doing some time warping here. I could launch a new grabber craft to come take care of some of this space debris. Maybe in a bit. I never did check if we could finally pilot some of these stranded orbiters as well. If they just rotate enough that their solar panel faces the sun, I can deorbit these at least. Ooh. Ooh, nope. Nothing. It's a little closer, looks like, than before. Order 3. Of all these stranded rescue orbiters for Nedbo, I didn't realize until after all these ones were stranded that... Oh! we had a power issue. Yes, this one is now back. This one's back to life. It's alive. Oh, it's out of fuel. Okay. So this one's not going anywhere. Maybe this one was already lined up. I don't know. But yeah, no fuel. So this one's not going anywhere at all. So there must have been one more orbiter, because there's another one. That was 3.3. We're number 3 right now. That's 3.3. That goes pod. I swear there was another one. Maybe I'm thinking of the one I already deorbited. Anyway, back at the moon. Oh? Our naming system got screwed up. Thinks our transfer vehicle is the Valentina Kerman Memorial Station. So let's fix that. That's better. So our station now abandoned. We'll be sending a new crew over. And we're going to rename our transfer vehicle. Alright. So let's time warp this sucker. Start getting this episode going. Finally on day 100. About to get to our apogee, which is going to be our escape from moon influence. Excellent. We can now auto aim retrograde. Start bringing our parry apps down. Oh, we're still in time warp. My bad. There we go. Auto aim retrograde. Engines have been rebalanced based on the fuel load that I gave it. We're going back into a moon encounter. And a slingshot, no less. How come when I want to do a slingshot, I can never do a slingshot? Oh, that's not gonna go. It's a little bit of fuel wasting here, but going back prograde. Until we see that moon encounter disappear. There we go. Time warp again. How did we still end up with a capture? And a slingshot. What the heck? Oh, prograde. Oh, time warp off. Prograde, please. I need to start being more aggressive with those initial burns because I'm just spending all that fuel later. And I did start this out fairly short-fueled on purpose because I wanted to leave some fuel on the station instead. Okay. That's kind of got me right back to square one, huh? Can we do this without the encounter? Oh, Lord. I'm just gonna watch our satellite for Minmus should be coming up pretty soon on its maneuver as we're doing all this time warping. This full-on ridiculousness. Yep. Minmus probe needs to do its thing. Don't know why it's decided to disappear on me. What the hell? Oh, there it is. That weirded me out. So first off, first order of business, we got this empty fuel tank. I was supposed to let it go there, but I think this could still work for us. Let's just see what happens. It becomes annoying space debris and probably eventually gets captured by the moon. So that was pretty stupid, to be honest. Not my finest work. But I forgot I was supposed to remove that before we got into an encounter. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. Nope, don't want all that madness, please. Just want an orbit, thank you. Alright, got a 17-second burn coming up. Warp right up to that maneuver. Activate the engine. I'll be about 9 seconds away when we start. Overburn a little bit. So I am going to go for this this orbit here rather than this very wide orbit. I'll go for this polar orbit. But alright, that'll be a while till it's in position. Let's check back in on our transfer vehicle. Which is not going so smoothly. Very poorly managed transfer. Got 4 hours to periaps. We're going to warp there. We've got so much junk around here. I need to start working on that. Okay, we're going to aim retrograde. Start lowering our apogee. Carefully now. I'm not going to lower it too much because I do need a slight inclination correction, and it's more fuel efficient to do that at higher altitude. I'll do that right here. I'll just circularize first. And we'll do our inclination correction. Exactly 0. There we go. Alright, so we have a very tiny burn coming up very soonish. So we have to go back to stability assist. So we can aim directly at our maneuver node. Hopefully I don't regret draining all that fuel out of this craft later. It's about 2 seconds away. I'm going to just slowly throttle up, because I can't really thrust limit on this thing. Should get us pretty close. 0.0 is fine. Now we start working on our rendezvous with the station. Checking our fuel levels when we do this. Okay, so we want to do our burn right there. Right there will give us a very good intersect. Does actually look like the majority of the difference there is timing. could do a radial change, or I could just tweak it a little bit. And 1 I think will do. I don't want to get too precise. I can do fine maneuvering with the RCS thrusters. I'd be happy just to have that at this point. So I have a 9-second burn. I am worrying about fuel levels. We're going to have a 9-second burn. We want to do that about 4.5 seconds away from the maneuver node. Like even like nice and tame. That is just like rolls that easily. For hodgepodge together craft, it's really not that bad. Now that it's getting lighter. So I will have to do some correction burn here. Definitely messed up our timing. Way to correct that would be with... There we go, 0.1. Pretty darn good. Good for winging it. Closest point. 509 meters a second. So I have to make sure that I have... Which I do. 0 maneuver, because we're... That was unusually fast. And switch to grade. And we're going to have an 11 second burn. We're going to want to start it. Okay. So we don't smash into this 5 seconds away. And we'll do our usual insanely maneuver. Don't lag now. Steady, good. Real good. A little bit. We had a little bit of an uncontrollable pitch there. That's fine. Just gonna cancel. Nice and slow, so we don't have... Now, comparatively. Oh, I think I managed that just fine. Now I know how much fuel it does take, even when we do things stupid, to get back. So that is a good thing. Just a little bit of fuel just to get us heading in the right direction. We'll switch over to docking mode, RCS linear, so we can actually brake once we get there. All right. Now, we're going to get this first expedition, this first moon expedition crew back. We are going to return them to Kerbin in their capsule, along with the other pilot we had, Dunson, who also operated this transfer vehicle, and the current transfer vehicle pilot. We're also going to send down Bob, so a total of 6 Kerman. Hopefully get them any level up that we can possibly get them. Relaunch a new expedition crew, plus some backups for Jebediah Memorial Station, so probably 3 more capsules. And then we will do 2 crew transfers over to Valentina Kerman Station. Get a total of 7 crew on board Valentina Kerman Station. So we'll be able to run the lab, send down scientists, have pilots on site for support, and by that I mean we could do remote pilot assist for the landers, and we'll have 1 engineer to repair any damages that happen to the landers, like broken landing legs, and we'll be in good shape. But for now, I just wanted to see what we really get out of landing our crew, like if they'll level up at all. Because right now they're like their log is only showing like orbit around Kerbin 2, but these guys have landed. This guy flight at Kerbin 1. So yeah, their logs don't really show much, but they've landed on the moon. Heck, Newstead was stranded on the moon for a while. So I think I might have to just completely return them to Kerbin to get that flight log and to get their experience and get them leveled up. Look at the station now. Which side is facing the... Oop, let's not wobble the station. That was probably a bad idea. Forgot I took off all the auto strut because of our other issues in Valentina Kerman Station. So I'm going to need to kind of circle the station a little bit. Our docking port's going to be on this side. Just going to have to go a little bit to our perspective, to the right of it. Trying to be very sparing with the monoprop here. That's our docking port right there. All right. It just about cancels us out, target. There we go. Now, we'll take our CS off, we'll go into rotational mode, and we will rotate ourselves into alignment. We are actually in the near perfect orientation for getting into the station now, without smashing anything. A little bit of rotation. Okay. Looks pretty good. Just need to pitch down a little bit. There we go. Line ourselves up with the port there. Alright, now. Back to linear mode. RCS back on. Looking good there. Carefully now. But our extra engine nacelle definitely is doing its intended job. That definitely just proved, getting over here that light fueled, that we will do fine only refueling at Jebediah Station, where it is much cheaper to send up fuel than obviously sending it to the moon. And we'll be sending it along on the crew crafts as we resend Kerman up. So yeah, be able to multitask a little bit, save a lot of funds. Good thing overall. Okay, there's our dock. Nice and smooth. Alright, very good. Now, start getting these guys home. So I do have one outmoded capsule with just 2 drogues. And I could attempt to land it with just the 2 drogues. That might be a thing, that's fine. I've slowly become more confident that that's fine. So I might put our Expedition 1 crew in that one. So Ronner, Nesky, Eiffel. They will take that first re-entry pod. How are we doing actually here on science? We have 48 science that we can already transmit back. Transmit some of that science. It's going to use a bunch of electric charge, but we have plenty on the station. Not bad. We just sent back a lot of science. Alright, so the expeditionally suspect lander here. Monoprop is to deorbit this sucker, huh? Prop to go. Let's see, do I have a... Oh, yes I do. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to put just enough fuel in one of the baguette tanks. that we'll be able to use to deorbit this sucker. 24 units should be maybe a little light, so we'll leave some RCS on. And we'll actually use those in tandem, because the RCS actually you can turn on to fire as you fire forward. So I'm going to bleed the RCS and the fuel lines at the same time to deorbit that pod and give us a quicker adjustment to our orbit. The remainder of the fuel here will get pumped into the transfer vehicle. Near empty transfer vehicle. And then the baguette tank will get transferred back into the pod. So we just have a bare minimum deorbiting fuel. I will get rid of some of this monoprop as well. Like I said, I'm going to give them just 2 tanks of monoprop. The other 4 tanks I'm going to put into the transfer vehicle for it to bring back to Valentina Kerman Station. That's the big thing. Every time I do this, I'll be able to transfer more fuel back to the moon station without having another launch. I'm sure there's a way to speed up the fuel transfer. And I'm going to just pick 4 radial tanks to distribute this fuel to, so it's an even distribution. Okay, now on this side, we'll pump fuel into the center one. The remaining fuel will get pumped into these radial tanks, just as before, in the same pattern, so we're even. Our infrastructure's coming along nicely. I'll be happy when we get a contract finally to get a station around Minmus, because I feel like I should wait until I get the contract and at least benefit from that. Since last time it resulted in me multi-launching stations. Alright. So, we've got some monoprop in reserve. We've got a tiny bit of fuel. Probably enough to deorbit. We've got 3 crew in here. Ronner Neski and Eiffel Kerman, who are Expedition 1 crew to the moon. Our long-term Expedition 1. They are good to undock. They are cleared to undock. So we're going to give them just a little bit of push from RCS here. Just to clear the station. To figure out where we are in orbit. We're a long way from home base here. So what we want to do, actually rather conveniently at apogee now, I want to figure out how much fuel we really have to deorbit with. So where our deorbit path is going to take us. So you can see this gives me like a little pessimistic, but I know better, and I do have RCS that we're going to enable, so we should be fine to deorbit at that point. I'll probably have to shift that when we get a little closer because the planet's going to be rotating underneath us. So actuation toggles forward by throttle on. We want to turn forward by throttle on this one off. And this one is already off then? Yep. Okay, so this is pre-configured correctly. That's good. Thrust limiter up to 100%. No RCS, please. Sure these are activated. Aim them at the maneuver node. Time warp a little bit, even though we're right next to the station, and I hate time warping next to a station. All right. As I predicted, this is going to have to slide a little bit more. We will definitely deorbit. So, considering the rotation of the planet below us, probably will be right at apogee that we managed to do this burn. That would be good. This will finally take care of this one questionable pod. I didn't like that it only had the 2 drogue chutes. Felt like it was landing too fast. But after the last one's also seeming to land pretty fast, even with 3. I'm a little more confident. I don't think the 3rd drogue actually accomplishes much. It's a nice shot of the station right there. It's pretty cool looking, actually. Alright, we're getting really close now to the maneuver. So one last inspection, see where we want to actually do the burn. Yep, we're going to want to go just a little later. Keep warping us to that point. It says it's a 1 minute 35-second burn time. Now, I am going to be expediting this slightly with the monoprop. So I really want to do this maybe like a 45-second in kind of thing to time it. Well, 45 would be normal. Let's do 30. 30 seconds. 30 seconds away from the node is where we're going to start. And we're going to aim directly retrograde instead of following the maneuver node. On RCS to boost it. There we are. So everything this little craft has is going into trying to deorbit. This was actually when I was using the spider engines. They're even worse than the ant engines. The ant engines at least are efficient. These aren't. I think they're just as cheap. In either case, they both really stink. They are great engines. But they are insanely cheap. Out. I actually did fairly well guesstimating. It's slowly putting our burn time between red and green, so it's figuring, okay, you have enough fuel, you don't have enough fuel. You have enough fuel, you don't have enough fuel. So we're going to end within about 13 meters a second of what we intended to do. Not bad. Not bad. Still puts us in the water in front of Kerbal Space Center. We'll of course slow down as we enter the atmosphere, so we will land a little shy of where it's telling us now. That's actually a good thing. We now have a totally empty craft. And this is our continent with the Kerbal Space Center, the island airfield here. We're now going to be coming up fairly rapidly on that. There's our Kerbal Space Center right there. That little splotch. So we're definitely going way out in front of it. I need to really work on our aim from that altitude. But we'll be landing in the water, and that's good enough for me. So we should start reheating fairly soon. Now this does have a built-in ablator, so I'm going to want to take advantage of that in just a second here. Right now. There we go. Say goodbye to that thing. Bob and weave a little bit in the atmosphere. Plenty of ablator to handle this. Barely touching it. There goes the